Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today. And today I'm going to be talking about why the Detroit Lions are a force to be reckoned with. As last night, the Detroit Lions defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in the season opener 21-20 when the Detroit Lions would upset the Kansas City Chiefs, who were the Super Bowl champions last season. I know, the Kansas City Chiefs were without star tight end Travis Kelce and star defensive tackle Chris Jones. That was a big reason why the Kansas City Chiefs lost. But this was still a great win for the Detroit Lions last night. The fact that this was, you saw last year Detroit was a top 6 offense in the NFL, and Detroit's offense was sloppy last night. This Detroit offense, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best of their abilities last night on offense. And not only that, but to win in Kansas City is even harder, even though Kansas City is without 2 of their best 3 players. Obviously, Mahomes is their best player, Kelce's their second best player, and Chris Jones is their third. They're missing 2 of their 3 best players, Kelce out with a knee injury, and Chris Jones, having some contract issues, wanting an extension. So, yes, you had you had 2 of your best players out for Kansas City. But the game's in Kansas City. Kansas City we're Super Bowl champions. It's hard to beat a Super Bowl champion their first game of the season, even if it's Patrick Mahomes too. It doesn't matter who Mahomes is throwing the ball to. To beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, even though there's no Kelce, which I know that's a big target that Mahomes likes to throw to, it's a huge win, especially when this Lions offense was, this Lions offense was not that great. And you're going to see this Lions offense play better than they did last night, for sure, throughout the season. And another thing I think was this defense. This defense really shined last night. Obviously, you can blame Travis Kelce being out of the lineup for the Chiefs last night, why Mahomes struggled a little bit, and this Chiefs offense, struggled, and some drop passes from this Kansas City offense was one of the reasons why, was one of the reasons why this Kansas City offense struggled. But the Lions' run defense looked amazing. Multiple stops on 3rd and short for this Lions' run defense. There was one. It was a jet sweep, and they stopped him for a loss of 3 yards. And they were really good on short 3rd and downs last night, where the Detroit Lions were really good on short 3rd downs. And I think they showed a lot of progressive things on defense that maybe, defense they were okay at last year. It just felt like their defense looked way better than it was at all last year. And looking at this Lions schedule and looking what they have down the road, this Lions team is going to be a scary team. I think where they're going to be, the most threat is going to be when they're playing at home. And honestly, in their first couple games, obviously they won last night. They're 1-0. I don't know if I see them losing a game in the next 5 games. I mean, let's go over their next 5 games. You play the Seattle Seahawks, but that's at home in Detroit. Then another home game, back-to-back home games against the Atlanta Falcons. Then you travel to Lambeau, play Green Bay. That's a Thursday night football game. Then you you're back home against the Panthers, and then you travel to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's horrible. It's going to be horrible this year. The only game out of those games I can see Detroit losing is the Green Bay game in Lambeau. It's a Thursday night football game. Green Bay is going to want to get some revenge for last year's playoff game, knocking them out of playoff contention. That's the last Green Bay is going to ever see of Aaron Rodgers. I think that's a potential loss for the Lions right there. But who knows what this Packers team is going to look like this year. I know the Seahawks are going to be okay this year. They're going to be a really good team. They'll make the playoffs most likely. But at Detroit, at home opener for Detroit after just knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, I think the Lions are going to show out at home, and this home crowd is going to be dangerous and make them even better. So I don't see them losing to Seattle. I sure as hell don't see them losing to Atlanta. Let's go with a loss there in Green Bay. I don't see them losing to the Panthers at home. I don't see them losing in Tampa. So that's a 5-1 start for these Detroit Lions. I think the Ravens game on the road, that's a loss. I think that should be a close game. You had that nail biter between them a couple years ago where, Justin Tucker made the huge 66-yard field goal to win a game the Lions should have won in 2021. But I think that should be a close game on October 22nd, but I think the Ravens will probably edge out, and then the Lions are 5-2. Going down the rest of the schedule, Las Vegas Raiders are going to be terrible. That's a home game too. That's a primetime game on Monday Night Football. That will be a win for the Lions. They're 6-2. Travel to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. You're 6-3. The Bears at home. I think that's a win. You're 7-3. Packers at home. I don't see them losing both games to the Packers. You're 8-3. I think traveling to New Orleans. You've won your last 2 games. I think that's a loss in New Orleans. You're 8-4. I think you beat Chicago. I'm actually going to go with the loss in Chicago. You lose in Chicago, so back-to-back road losses. You're 8-5. I think you beat Denver at home. You're 9-5. You beat Minnesota on the road. You're 10-5. I'm going to say you pull off a huge upset against the Cowboys on the road, and you're 11-5. And then you lose in the season finale against the Minnesota Vikings, and you're 11-6. That's how I see this. That's how I see the Lions doing this season, and I don't know how many people will probably have the Lions winning 11 games, because I honestly could see them maybe even winning 12, because I did give them definitely a couple losses that they could win. I mean, I did say they'd lose in Chicago and New Orleans. I said they'd lose in Green Bay. Those are definitely some games that they could win. But I also gave them some games that they could. I also gave them some wins that they could lose, like the game in Seattle next Sunday, and even the game in Dallas, even the game in Minnesota. So I did give them some wins that could be losses. So I think that it could be that type of season where the Lions win some games they're supposed to win some games they're not supposed to, beat the good teams like the Ravens and the Cowboys, and then lose some games they're supposed to win. That's how I could see maybe this season turning out for the Detroit Lions. But I think they're a good team. They have a good offense. Honestly, I think their offense will probably be better than it was last year. Eventually, after week 6, they'll get Jameson Williams back. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Josh Reynolds, who had an excellent season debut last night, 4 receptions and 80 receiving yards, a 35-yard reception as well to get the Lions in the end, to not get them in the end zone, to get them in the red zone. Brought them inside the 10-yard line on a big play, which was a 3rd down, I believe, for the Lions. And he had a great game last night. Was probably the best wide receiver. Him and Amon-Ra both had a great game. Have Marvin Jones Jr., you have Khalif Raymond. This is a solid wide receiver group for the Lions. A good tight end group as well, with rookie Sam Laporta, who had 40 receiving yards in his rookie debut last night. And not only that, but you have Brock Wright, who was a rookie last year. So this is a good tight end group. Great running back duo as well, with David Montgomery, who had over 70 rushing yards last night in the Lions' win against the Chiefs. And then Jamar Gibbs, rookie, who was the 12th overall pick, who's going to be a stud for this Lions offense, who had a total of 60 yards on pass and rush game last night, and the Lions win over the Kansas City Chiefs. So this is a great offense. And the defense has improved throughout the offseason, adding in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was just dominating last night in the secondary for this Lions defense against the Chiefs. And then also drafting Brian Branch, who had a pick 6 last night for the Lions to tie the ball game up at 14. And then drafting linebacker with the 18th overall pick, Jack Campbell, making some other additions to this defense, Cameron Sutton and Emmanuel Mosley for the secondary. So this secondary has really improved for the Detroit Lions. That is their strong suit. Not only that, having second-year defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, who was the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. So he's going to be a stud to have in his second season. He had a really good game last night in Kansas City. So this defense has really, in my opinion, has really improved from what it was last year. And they showed it last night too, from what I saw. You guys know your thoughts on this Detroit Lions team. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people in the NFL this year. And yeah, you guys know your thoughts on the game from last night as the Lions defeated the Chiefs 21-20. I think the Lions are going to surprise a lot of people this season. And I honestly think the Lions could definitely win 11 to 12 games this season, if not maybe 13. I know that sounds crazy. Actually, I don't think 13. I don't think they'll win 13 games. I think they'll win in the area of 10 to 12 games. They'd have to play some really good football to win 13 games this year. But I mean, at the same time, it's by me saying they could win 13 games, it's not me saying like they're going to be really good, because they will be good. But I kind of think, in my opinion, they have a little bit of an easy schedule. Yeah, they play they have some hard opponents, right? They played the Chiefs last night, obviously. They play the Cowboys. They play the Ravens. And they play the Seahawks as well next week. But besides that, there's not a lot of hard opponents. I mean, play the Vikings twice, play the Bears twice, play the Packers twice. There's not a lot of other hard opponents in this schedule for the Detroit Lions. So this is a little bit of an easy schedule for this Lions team as well. You guys let me know your thoughts on the Detroit Lions. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.